Okay, Judge, we are now streaming live on YouTube. Thank you everyone for coming. Welcome to round 3. This session of mock trial is now in session. The Honorable Judge Charlie Willman presiding.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's just I'll do some preliminary matters. I don't have as much as we would have if this were a live competition, but I want to cover a couple of things. First of all, what I'd like is that when we're presenting, if you do an opening or closing, that should be the only person who has their video on. If we're doing a direct or cross, we should have the directing attorney, the crossing attorney, and the witness have their videos on and no one else. If for some reason the timer needs to say something, please put your video on. I do have my chat on. I'll be watching that as well. But it's good to put your video on in case I'm not paying attention to the chat at the moment. Any questions about that from anyone? Okay, this is being recorded by the state tournament. Nobody else is allowed to record this presentation. So please keep that in mind. See if I have anything else. You're reminded that the strict compliance with time requirements is important. If you fail to comply with those time requirements, that can be used in scoring. If you have any disputes arising out of the competition, they must be reported in accordance with the competition rules. We have no recesses, absence of emergency, or technical problem. I've been told if I have technical problems, I'm authorized to stop the clock. I think both timers know to please stop the clock if we lose a witness or an attorney in the middle of a direct or cross, or we need to stop the clock, and we'll figure out that problem out, and I'll get a hold of the state committee, and we'll get us back up and running. With that, if will all team members and witnesses please turn their cameras on. Let's get everybody on. Okay, please raise your right hand. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? You can nod yes.
I do.
Put your thumbs up, that works. Witnesses, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition? Okay, having seen no dissent, I'm going to assume that everyone agreed. Scoring panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition? I'll take that as a set. Okay, thank you all. With that, plaintiff, do you have any preliminary matters?
I do not, Your Honor.
Defense, do you have any preliminary matters?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and I forgot one other thing. I was told, and so you know, all myself and all the scoring panelists have copies of the exhibits. You do not need to publish them. If it's easy for you because that's in your routine, you can do that, but you can just refer to them. We do have the exhibits in our computers, or I have actually printed a hard copy of those. And so by referring to them, we will have those. You don't need to publish them. That'll save you all a little time. It always takes time to make that presentation. But again, if you want to do that, you're welcome to do so. With that, we will, just one other thing for objections. So you know, I will allow the objection, a response, and then the person making the objection will get a reply. I will rarely go beyond that simply for time reasons. But I do want to give you a chance to make your objection, make the response, and a reply for the purposes of scoring. I think that's all the preliminary stuff I have. If I remember something, I'll interject. With that, Emily, are you giving the opening?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed with, you may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, Your Honor, and the jury. Let me introduce today's case to you. We're speaking for a client, Ms. Dakota Weirs. She has recently been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma, cancer. For her, as that would have been for anyone, that was a devastating diagnosis. It has impacted almost all aspects of her current life and future. To name just a few examples, it caused her great physical pain over a long period of time, made her unable to be involved with her community, and caused her her Juilliard scholarship, as she can't play the piano anymore, which had been a great passion of hers. It goes way further than that even, because she was planning on pursuing a career in concert piano, with her training at Juilliard as the base. Now, neither of that is probably ever possible. Now, what does that all have to do with the defendant, Lush Fertilizer? Well, since she was 14, Ms. Weirs has been working for a landscaping company, Haven Landscaping. Her primary job was spreading seed and fertilizer, one of them being Lush Fertilizer. Then, just before she was set to leave for Juilliard, Dakota started to feel sick, experienced rapid weight loss, swelling, fatigue, physical pain, and depression, and was finally diagnosed with cancer. She did not connect her job with her illness at first until she saw a story about Lush Fertilizer and Drufo, the key ingredient in their fertilizer that helped set off Lush's big success in the industry. The leaked documents revealed that this ingredient, Drufo, can cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma. After Ms. Weirs has been working with it for years, that finally caused her to make the connection between her illness and the fertilizer. Especially enhancing the suspicion was to her that her twin, Skylar Weirs, has not developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma, although the two shared every aspect of their lives. Well, everything except working with Lush Fertilizer. As our first witness, Ms. Weirs herself is going to speak and tell you about her devastating story with cancer. She will tell you about how she used Drufo, not knowing about the dangers, as the labels did not even slightly mention the possibility of such illness, which ended so fatally for Ms. Weirs. It is for sure that she would have done things differently had she been properly informed and could live her life now as she was supposed to live it, not suffering from cancer. Second, Mr. Carson Durst is going to speak as our witness. He has been working very closely with the development of Drufo. After discovering the danger and carcinogenic risks during an in-house study, he tried to voice those to his superiors and even the CEO herself, Blake Doncord. They shut him down and tried to silence any concerns about Drufo at all. After his work environment kept getting more and more negative, his career in the company ended with being fired. Our last witness will be Dr. Casey Rogers, an expert in agriculture and chemistry. He has several publications about Drufo and its direct correlation to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He will lay out the often permanent symptoms that patients, including Ms. Weirs, have to go through, as well as the environmental causes of the cancer, including pesticides. He confirms, after reviewing Ms. Weirs' medical data, that that was very likely the reason for her illness. Even the CEO of Lush herself, Blake Doncord, is going to have to admit later that she even got advised by her experts to bake Drufo before putting it in the fertilizer, because that could have eliminated any of the carcinogenic particles. She decided not to do that. Why? Because it was expensive. The company made far greater profits by not baking it. So in the end, we're going to ask you to find Lush Fertilizer liable for purposely putting out a dangerous product into the hands of the public while insufficiently labeling it, and while those dangers could have easily been chemically prevented, which consumers like our client, Dakota Weirs, have to suffer from in the end. They are the ones having to suffer through life-threatening and in every case completely life-changing illnesses like cancer, while Lush Fertilizer and their CEO earn more financial profit. We are going to be seeking compensation of $5 million. Although our client's life has now been irreversibly impaired by her illness, and money will not make up for the years of her life that she lost, Lush should at least attempt to compensate for what they did. This includes the future and career Ms. Weirs lost with her scholarship and inability to play piano, the extreme physical and mental pain she has suffered so far and will suffer from in said future, the emotional trauma and distress she obtained from the diagnosis, like the depression she got, and finally, the quality of life that has been permanently impaired by her illness. That is why we urge you to find Lush Fertilizer liable and make them finally compensate Dakota Weirs with what she deserves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I apologize, I should have written this down. I didn't know who will be presenting the opening from the defense.
I'll be introducing the defense, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may proceed when you're ready, Chloe.
Okay. Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. Today you will hear testimony that will find Lush Fertilizer is not responsible for Dakota's non-Hodgkin lymphoma. You will hear testimony that Dakota has had a job as a landscaper where their primary job was to spread fertilizer and that Lush products were not the only fertilizer used. You will also hear that Dakota did not listen to their employer and wear proper protecting coverings. We are saddened that Dakota has cancer, but the blame cannot be placed with Lush Fertilizer. From the defense, you will hear from three witnesses, Devin Williams, Blake Donkert, and Skylar Weirs. Devin Williams is a researcher and doctor that shows math will never lie, and he understands how Dr. Rogers' study is heavily flawed. Blake is the most environmentalist CEO you will ever hear. He was not aware of the risks of Drufo and how Lush research, and he did much of Lush's research that did not find any carcinogenics in their products. He has always given back to the community and made many contributions to charities. He is empathetic to Dakota, and Dakota has been taken advantage of. Skylar, his dear twin sister, is an investigative reporter. She's an expert and has done extensive research on Drufo. Today, the burden is on the plaintiff. We must prove that Drufo knowingly used that did not use carcinogenics in their product. And Blake, the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, was not negligent in the production of their product. We are confident that the burden cannot be met.
Thank you very much. I'll give the scoring panelist a minute to score. When you're ready to give me a thumbs up, I appreciate it. Okay. Is the plaintiff ready to present its first witness? You're muted now. Try unmute.
Sorry, Your Honor. My bad.
Awesome. We got you.
Some technical difficulty in the other room.
Okay, we'll hold on, but thank you for letting me know, Joe.
All right, can you guys see me? Okay, unmute yourself.
We can hear you, Adrian. That works. So, yeah.
You guys
And
can hear me? Okay,
defense.
perfect. So,
Yeah. I need a defense crosser. Who will be crossing this witness from the defense? If you'll put your video on, please. There we go. Okay, I think we have all the players. You may proceed when you're ready. Timers, I will hopefully give you enough time, but if for some reason I don't, put your screen on, let me know. Go ahead.
so Your Honor, I would like to call Dakota Weirs to the stand. Okay. So, Ms. Weirs, I have a few questions for you today. So could you state your name for your record, please?
Dakota Weirs.
And how old are you?
I am about 20 years old.
Do you have any particular hobbies or interests?
Of course, I've helped around my community as much as I can ever since I've been in school. I try to be in as many extracurricular activities as possible. I love being able to help people. I used to volunteer for a homeless shelter just down the road from me.
So what kind of jobs have you had in the past, if any?
I've been working at a place called Haven Landscaping since I was 14. And unfortunately, I can't work there anymore.
So why have you stopped working there?
I have been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I believe my working there and the chemicals that I used are the reason for my illness.
So how has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma affected your mental health?
It's been horrible for me, of course. I lost my job. I haven't been able to even sit for longer periods of time. It hurts just being here up on the stand. And I spent many days not knowing if I'd wake up, being able to breathe easily. I would just spend so much time on the couch, not being able to move without some sort of pain.
So I understand you interacted a lot with your community. Can you tell me how non-Hodgkin's lymphoma has affected that?
Like I said, I haven't been able to even get up off a couch. So I haven't been able to go outside. I haven't been able to help people like I used to. Even though I'm out of high school now, I still am unable to do any sort of extracurricular activities. And it's been really hard for me.
Right. So you did mention that lush fertilizer, you believe that lush fertilizer was the reason for your disease. So did you do any personal research on this?
I did. With the help of my boss, my father, and just myself, we found a couple of studies that found that Drufo, which is a chemical used in lush fertilizer, is not only carcinogenic sometimes, it is outlawed in the EU and other places like Cote d'Ivoire and other places.
And you had no clue that the specific chemical in this product was potentially carcinogenic at the time of your usage?
Of course not. I had no clue whatsoever. There was no warning on the package. There was no way to even know that this could possibly cause how bad of an illness I have.
Right. So could you look in your materials for Exhibit 1, please?
Yes,
And just let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
Okay. So are you familiar with this exhibit?
I am, yes.
And what does this exhibit show?
It is the label on Lush fertilizer.
And is this the exact label of the product in which you used while working at Havens Landscaping?
It is, yes.
So, Your Honor, I would like to enter Exhibit 1 into evidence.
Sorry, never
Is there
mind.
any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, exhibit 1 will be admitted.
So how much time do you think you spent interacting with this product, Ms. Weirs?
For a couple years at least.
So are there any warnings or suggestions on this label?
Well, of course, yes. There's the hazards that are usual, like keep out of reach of children. We don't want anyone eating them or getting it into your eyes to wash it out and such.
And can you point to me where in this label does it mention that this product carries a risk for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
There's nowhere on this label that says it could possibly cause cancer.
So did you ever wear protective gear or clothing?
I didn't. It wasn't necessarily enforced at my work, so I didn't see quite the need to.
So how many people wore protective clothing and gear to protect themselves from harmful chemicals over at Havens Landscaping?
Almost no one whatsoever.
Okay. And did you guys ever work with the product indoors?
We did. Often we worked in lobbies that are in large buildings in order to get kind of more realistic grow out of them.
And can you point to me where in this label are there any suggestions for using this weed fertilizer with chemicals strictly outdoors?
Nowhere.
So had you had known about Drufo potentially causing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, would you have taken different precautions such as wearing and respirators?
100% I would have. If I had known that this could cause me harm in any sort of way other than the simple don't get it in your eyes or in your mouth, I would have completely worn much more protective clothing, such as longer pants, longer sleeves, maybe even a face mask.
Right. So let's move on. Do you have a twin?
I do have a twin, yes.
And what is their job if they have one?
They are a journalist.
So how would you describe your relationship with your twin sibling?
it's not the perfect buddy-buddy relationship that you expect from twins, but we're not mortal enemies either.
So what was your siblings' relationship with New Haven Landscaping?
Well, my sibling is allergic to grass, so they couldn't work outdoors near any sort of fertilizer or grass feed.
So given the fact that you are twins, why do you think that you have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and they don't?
I believe that it was an environmental factor that caused me to have non-Hodgkin's, such as, well, DERFO while we're here. And I think that Skylar can't have it because they never worked with DERFO.
So what does your future with this disease look like in concern to your mental health?
Who knows at this point, to be honest. Not very good.
And what do you think it looks like for your financial future?
Not good either. I don't see what jobs I can get, and due to my scholarship at Juilliard being taken away, I've lost my love for the piano, and which is what I was really hoping would be my future job. But unfortunately, I can no longer do that.
No further questions, Your Honor. And thank you, Ms. Weirs.
Thank you, counsel. Just give a minute for the timers to change. And Susie, if you want, you may proceed to cross.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Okay. Good morning, Dakota. Your diagnosis of cancer has been a real hard time for you.
It's been extremely rough. It's been terrible on my mental health and terrible for my economic stability. I don't know what my future has.
I'm sorry you are going through this rough time, Dakota, but let's begin with how you suspected DRUFO as the cause of your cancer in the first place. So you came across the alleged connection between DRUFO and cancer by watching TV?
I did, yes, but it was a reliable source, and I did some more research on my own after I found it there.
And the first thing you did after seeing this news was you called your dad?
Yes, that is correct.
What did your dad do?
He helped me find the packaging labels and do more research into it.
Did your dad look into
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Is that how is this relevant?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, I got that. What's your response, Susie?
Your Honor, I'm just trying to establish some background as to how the witness came across the alleged connection between DRUFO and cancer in the first place.
Anything further?
Are you talking to me, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Adrian, go ahead. Anything further from you?
Yeah. So, Your Honor, this has nothing, her father has nothing to do with the matter at hand. We are talking about Dakota Weirs and her interaction with the product and not her father.
Okay, it appears to me that this witness raised this in direct, and this could go to credibility or other purposes. This proper cross-examination. I would overrule the objection. You may proceed.
Okay. Did your dad look into why France or the EU banned the product?
Yes, I believe he did. We had found, once again, that it could lead to cancer, and that's why it has been banned.
Can you tell me why it was banned?
Like I said, it can cause cancer, and of course, like people should be seeing, that it's not good for the people who are using it. So who wouldn't ban it for their country?
Ms. Weirs, you are aware that you are under oath, right? Correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, moving on. Next in your research of DRUFO, you called your old boss, correct?
Yes.
And he confirmed that Lush products with Drufo were used.
Yes, he did.
He found a label with the ingredients listed.
He did, yes.
And did he find a warning label?
He did, yes.
And did he give you the warning label of other products that you've used in your time of work?
No, he didn't. I didn't ask for other labels of products.
But it is true that you were in contact with numerous products containing warnings on its dangers.
Yes, that's true. I worked with multiple fertilizers, which all had warnings on them.
So because of these warnings, is it possible that the other products used at work are also possibly carcinogenic?
I wouldn't know. I didn't do research on other possible things that are carcinogenic.
Do you think Drufo can truly be pinpointed as the root cause of your cancer?
I do, yes.
Even though you've been exposed to multiple known carcinogens at work, such as arsenic?
Yes, I wasn't completely aware that those were all carcinogenic. I've only done research on Drufo.
Did you anywhere in your research find a clear link between Drufo and cancer?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You started your employment at Haven Landscaping at the age of 14, correct?
I did, yes.
And due to your age, you often handled fertilizers?
Yes, I did.
Fertilizers were not the only product you handled, correct?
Yes, that's correct. We used different kind of fertilizers, pesticides, all sorts of things. We were a landscaping company after all.
And did you check the ingredients of each and every product that you handled?
Not each and every one, but I figured almost each and every one was safe, unlike Lush Fertilizers was, because I now have cancer because of it.
Your boss at Haven Landscaping told you to cover your face when working with any of these products, yes?
Yes.
And many products also instructed outdoor usage only?
Some of them did, yes.
You ignored these warnings frequently and used products indoors?
Well, that doesn't go to say that we didn't use, if they blatantly said that to use outdoor, we didn't always use them indoors. And oftentimes it wasn't that much amount.
Okay, please stick to the yes or no answers. Thank you. You claimed that during the summer it was too hot to cover your face.
It was, yes, it got very heated outside.
You also claimed that the wind felt too good on your face.
Yes, I've always loved being outside, and to feel the wind on my face was the whole reason why I even joined a landscaping company.
So you were knowingly spreading fertilizers and seeds even on these great windy days.
Yes, it was my job to do that.
Were you wearing a face cover?
No, it was not enforced, and it was also too hot outside. It would be extremely uncomfortable.
So you weren't wearing long sleeves either?
No, I wasn't. Like I said, it was too hot outside, and it would be extremely uncomfortable.
So you claim that you weren't the only one to defy these rules, correct?
Yes.
And you ignored these safety warnings despite being constantly surrounded by harmful chemicals?
Yes, they were not enforced at my work, and I didn't ignore them. They weren't enforced, and they weren't essentially needed most of the time when we were outdoors. It was too hot, and it would be uncomfortable.
And you did this with a variety of products, not just Lush Fertilizers products and Drufo?
Yes, we're a landscaping company. We use multiple fertilizers and feeds.
And just to reiterate, you state pretty much everyone, including me, wore shoes and t-shirts.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Response?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I'll sustain the objection. Move on.
Okay. To your knowledge, do these other people at your work also develop cancer?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Objection, Your Honor, lack of personal knowledge.
Response?
The witness has previously stated that their cancer was an environmental cause. So I'm asking for their knowledge if those people of the same environment, to their knowledge, has also developed cancer.
I think she can say whether or not she knows. I'm sorry, Adrian, give you a chance to respond. Do you want to respond?
Right. Yeah. I don't think my client knows anything about the situation regarding her, the people she worked with, and whether or not they contracted any diseases from this. And she doesn't work with them anymore.
Okay, I think that it's up to her. She can give that answer. If the question's proper, that as it's stated, she doesn't know she can say that. So I'm going to overrule the objection.
Will you repeat the question? And I'm sorry.
Yes, to your knowledge, did these people that you worked with also develop cancer?
Not to my knowledge, no. Like I had said, I don't work there anymore. I couldn't tell you. I wasn't that close with anyone at my work.
Were you handling Lush's products the entire time of your employment?
For most of the time, yes. Not for the first couple of years.
Based on your employment history, is it possible that another agent, another fertilizer, may have caused your cancer?
I wouldn't know. I'm not a scientist, and I only did research into Lush fertilizer.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Give the timers just a minute.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, sorry.
Is there a redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, I would like to redirect.
You may proceed.
So, Ms. Weirs, if you could take a look back at Exhibit 1, is this the hazard on the label talking about masks and protective clothing? Is that a recommendation or a requirement?
It's not a requirement. It's a recommendation on this label.
And can you tell me how many people wore masks and protective clothing at Havens Landscaping?
Essentially, no one. It was not enforced.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, is there any further recross?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, the witness may stand down, and we'll take a minute for scores. Scores already? All right. Plaintiff may proceed with their next witness.
Your Honor, the plaintiff would like to call Mr. Carson Durst to the stand.
Mr. Durst, excuse me. He was there for a moment. We have Andrea for crossing. Okay, I think we're prepared to go. You may proceed with direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carson Durst, could you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Carson Durst.
Where are you currently employed?
I am currently employed at Terrace Greenery,
Where were you employed before that?
Lush Fertilizer.
What was your position in the company?
At Lush Fertilizer, I was a product development engineer.
How close were you to the danger evaluation process of Drufo?
I was involved in 2 in-house studies, one of them being on the subject of whether Drufo was carcinogenic or not.
During those studies, did you notice any dangers at all about Drufo?
Yes. In a study, I noticed that Drufo was carcinogenic in rats. This was not my study. It was researched by me, and I found this. It's an English study.
How did you document those dangers or concerns?
Yes, in my lab notebook.
Was that lab notebook checked by anybody?
To the employee's knowledge, it should be checked by our superiors, such as Jerry Langley. However, I cannot say for sure whether it was checked.
Did you try to express your concerns about Drufo to your superiors in any other way?
Well, never verbally to any of my superiors. However, a certain scientist did express her concerns, and she explained that it was possibly linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That was during our second in-house study, but I never personally expressed my concerns other than my lab notebook.
Did you have access to the results of that second in-house study?
I did.
Was data being left out of the report at all?
Yes, the report never once mentioned non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
So, considering all that, would you say with some certainty that your superiors still knew of the dangers of Drufo, for example, through the study that was done or through the dangers that you documented in your notebook?
Yes, there were many times that my superiors knew of the carcinogenic effect of Drufo.
How was the situation and work environment with your coworkers like?
Well, immediately after my promotion to a full-time position in the company, a lot of my superiors and coworkers thought that I was only promoted because of my personal relationship with the Doncourt family. However, I can say that these are completely untrue and have no basis. I am an extremely hardworking person, and I am qualified for the position. I was qualified for the position.
Did you feel pressured by your coworkers or superiors not to express any concerns, considering this work environment?
Yes, during the in-house study, the second in-house study, there was certainly pressure from our superiors to leave out certain information or create wiggle room for any further lawsuits.
How did that negative work environment affect your work in the company?
Well, it didn't affect my work. I can say that throughout my entire time, I was very hardworking and on task. However, it did affect my superiors and coworkers' relationship as well as views on me personally.
How was your relationship with Blake Doncourt like?
Well, I was best friends with his oldest son, Charles Doncourt, for my whole life. And I knew Mr. Doncourt for many years. And I felt betrayed when I was fired from the company and not given the recognition that I deserved from Mr. Doncourt.
How did that personal relationship affect you expressing your concerns about Drufo to Blake Doncourt?
Well, in one meeting early on in my employment, I had abysmal reviews on my work, and I wanted to mention this to Blake, that I was being treated unfairly by Jerry and himself. However, I was dismissed by Blake, and furthermore, in my employment, I did not feel comfortable trying to raise concerns to Blake because of this reason, that Blake dismissed me and I felt very betrayed and wronged by Blake.
How did that personal relationship affect your termination in the company?
Blake betrayed me, and I will stand by that. And I believe he fired me because I was raising concerns over his product that would make him a lot of profits.
Thank you, Mr. Durst. That was all the questions that I had.
Thank you. Andre, are you ready to proceed with cross?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
I do so.
You know the Doncourt family well, yes?
Yes.
You're good.
Hold on, let me
friends
stop the time just for a second. Andre, could you turn your volume up at all?
with- Is this better?
That's much better. Okay, let's start over.
You know the Doncourt family well, yes?
Yes.
You're good friends with the Doncourt's son, Charles?
Yes.
You even went to the same college?
Yes, we went to Arizona State University together.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
I'm simply building background as to how he got his job with Lush.
Response?
I don't think the relationship to the CEO's son has anything to do with Mr. Carson Durst and his relationship to Drufo, what we're examining here.
I think that developing some background is appropriate. It's her cross and her time. I don't see, I might allow the question.
When you couldn't find a job after graduating, Charles offered to pull some strings at Lush.
Well, those were not his exact words. Charles heard of my struggle to find a job and said he was sure that Blake could possibly pull some strings for me, but this does not mean that he directly got me the internship.
You wrote in your notebook about how Drufo could cost, about the study you found about Drufo.
Yes, I took note of the study, the English study that found that it was carcinogenic in rats.
Did you ever speak up about in any meetings about your concerns?
No, my other coworkers did so.
Did you ever send any emails?
In my time at the company, I did send emails, yes.
Sorry, about your concerns for Drufo.
No.
Did you talk to any higher ups directly about these concerns?
My concerns over Drufo, no. Again, they were brought up by my coworkers in a meeting, so I did not feel the need to personally.
And you didn't talk to Blake Doncorn about these?
No.
You didn't see it through that this information reached someone else?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
You didn't see it through that this information reached someone else?
Are you asking whether I know that this information reached my superiors?
And I'll just ask a different question, sorry. You've had work evaluations?
I had reviews over my work at the company, just like any other employee, yes.
Several of these towards the end of your termination were subpar?
Yes, you could say.
Eventually, because of these, you were fired?
I believe I was fired because of a mixture of these reviews. However, these reviews were influenced by rumors and unfair opinions my coworkers had upon me. I was also fired because I was raising concerns and being seen as a...
I'm going to ask you to stick to yes or no answers.
Okay.
Being fired didn't bother you because you had already secured employment with Terrace Greenery?
It bothered me. I felt betrayed by Blake.
You signed a non-compete agreement on June 1st, 2003?
Now I find out about that, yes. However, when I signed it, when I was leaving the company, I did not remember this non-compete agreement.
So you had violated your contract with Lush while still in their employment?
I was out of their employment by the time I violated this non-compete agreement. Again, I did not remember it, and I do regret doing so.
That's all the questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there any redirect?
There is not, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, this witness may be excused, and we'll take a minute for the scores to enter their scores. Daniel, you ready? Okay. Plaintiff may call their next witness.
Your Honor, the plaintiff would like to call Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand.
Dr. Rogers?
Good morning, Your Honor.
And, all right. Are you two on plaintiff? Are you in the same room?
No.
No, we have the issue figured out. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Want to make sure we could hear you, not echoing. So, all right. Looks like we're all ready. You may proceed.
Would you state your name for the record?
My name is Dr. Casey Rogers.
What is your education experience?
I earned my PhD in agriculture and entomology from the University of California at Berkeley, as well as a bachelor's degree in agriculture and chemistry from the Colorado State University.
What is your profession?
I am currently employed as a professor in the horticulture and entomology department at the University of California at Berkeley.
And were you published once or numerous times?
I have published numerous scholarly articles.
And what were some of your publications about?
I've published several articles on weed resistance to Drufo, and more relevant to this case would be numerous articles on Drufo potentially being carcinogenic and toxic and the effect that it has on humans.
Your Honor, I offer Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert in pesticide chemistry and toxicology.
Is there any objection? I'm sorry, did you respond? I can't hear you. That's probably why I didn't know. I would have my head down.
No, Your Honor.
Be no objection. Doctor qualified those fields, allowed to express her opinion in those fields.
Has your research been used before in advisory boards, recommendations, and litigations?
Yes, it has.
Can you tell the jury what non-Hodgkin lymphoma is?
Non-Hodgkin lymphoma is a specific type of cancer that affects the white blood cells that are called lymphocytes, meaning that it affects the function of the immune system, which helps to fight off diseases and move fluids around the body.
And what does a person suffering from non-Hodgkin lymphoma go through?
A person suffering from non-Hodgkin lymphoma might have night sweats, fever, weight loss, tiredness, loss of appetite, and as we can tell from our witness Dakota Weirs, great physical suffering and potentially mental suffering as well.
Is non-Hodgkin lymphoma genetic?
It is not genetic.
Can it only be caused by environmental conditions?
Yes, it can.
Can non-Hodgkin lymphoma ever be cured?
No, it cannot.
What effects is Drufo proven to have in rats?
Drufo has proven to be carcinogenic in rats.
And you conducted a study on the effects of Drufo. What were the conclusions of that study?
In the study I conducted, we found that persons exposed to Drufo regularly, compared to those not exposed to Drufo, were up to 10 times more likely to be diagnosed with cancers such as non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
So is there a correlation between Drufo exposure and non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
In my professional opinion, yes, absolutely.
And was Dakota Weirs the only person to develop non-Hodgkin lymphoma due to Drufo exposure?
No, Dakota has not been the only one.
And was Drufo ready to be put on the market?
Again, in my professional opinion, it was absolutely not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Hello, Dr. Casey Rogers. I'd like to ask, Drufo chemical.
I apologize. Would you repeat the question?
Is Drufo chemical?
Yes.
And with all potentially dangerous chemicals, one should protect themselves?
Yes, one should protect themselves against dangerous chemicals.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes, I do believe people should protect themselves against potentially harmful chemicals.
And it is true for all chemicals, not just Drufo.
Yes.
And you recommend that those using these chemicals should wear long sleeves?
Yes.
Long pants.
Yes.
If the product is aerosolized, they should wear masks.
Yes, those were my recommendations.
So it doesn't matter if the chemical is Drufo or not, correct?
Yes.
And you would advocate for these safety measures no matter?
I would always advocate that people protect themselves. Yes.
Non-Hodgkin lymphoma is not genetic, right?
It is genetic.
It's caused by environmental conditions,
Yes,
such as pesticides.
exactly.
Just to be clear, there are other ways you can get non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about your research. So you made a study with people who use Drufo frequently, to people who use the products not regularly, to people who were never exposed, right?
That is correct.
You compared the farmers to gardeners who use Drufo, yes?
Yes, farmers who were using Drufo very regularly, gardeners on a semi-regular basis, and people who were very, very rarely exposed at all.
After you conducted your research, you found that these results were inconclusive.
No, that is incorrect.
Your Honor, may I go consult with my counsel?
You may. The time is still running.
You do understand you're under oath, correct?
Yes, I do.
After you conducted your research, for the masks and coverings, did you find that the results were inconclusive?
Yes, in the study where I was conducting whether protective gears were effective, not enough coverings were provided to workers for the study to have enough data to be valid. I was under the impression that we were discussing the study whether Drufo caused cancers in individuals.
Okay, my apologies. And it was inconclusive because you could not truly control other variables such as protective coverings?
Yes, they're not usually provided to workers.
And you're unable to study the long-term effectiveness of protective coverings, correct?
That is correct.
As a landscaper, it would be expected that Dakota used other chemicals, correct?
If they had been provided to workers, yes.
Other fertilizers,
Yes.
other such as seed products.
Yes.
So the different people would be exposed to different environmental influences, correct?
I'm assuming.
You're frozen. And we can't hear you.
The land.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Did you ask a question? I couldn't hear that.
Sorry, Your Honor, we're having some technical difficulties. I think we gotta figure it out now.
I apologize, Your Honor. Are you able to hear me?
Hold on. Your time's off for a second, please. I missed the last question. Did you hear the question, Dr. Rogers?
No. Would you be able to repeat the question, please?
Of course. As a landscaper, Dakota would work with other landscapers who worked with different environmental influences, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of personal knowledge.
Response?
Dr. Casey Rogers is an expert and understands that, and has answered my other questions about the landscapers working with other fertilizers.
Anything else, Ms. Jones?
Yes. Dr. Rogers has no idea what other fertilizers Dakota Weirs is working with and has specifically been researching the chemical Drufo.
Well, that may be, but Ms. Jones, but I think the doctor can answer the question as proper cross-examination of it, overrule the objection. You may repeat the question, ma'am.
Of course, thank you, Your Honor. So as a landscaper, Dakota would have been exposed to different environmental influences.
I wouldn't be able to say exactly what those were, but yes.
Okay, thank you. Have you ever had to testify as an expert witness before?
No, I have not.
So it is your first time?
It is my first time, but my research has been used in litigation and before administrative advisory boards.
A yes or no would do. You hope this isn't your last time, correct?
I do indeed.
In fact, you believe that if this case goes on the way you anticipate, there will be more class action lawsuits like this one?
I do
Objection,
hope-
Your Honor, relevance.
How is this relevant?
I'm trying to make motive.
Be credibility.
What was that?
Are you talking about it for testifying?
I'm trying to make a motive for Casey Rogers to try and make a name for themselves.
Okay. Response, Ms. Jones?
Dr. Casey Rogers is here today just to testify under an expert witness, and the motive does not relate to anything that she is testifying under her expert opinion.
Well, I do find this goes to credibility, which is one of the issues the jury has to determine, so I'm going to overrule that objection.
So you would, may I ask the question again, Your Honor?
Yes.
In fact, you believe if this case goes on the way you anticipate, there will be more class action lawsuits like this one? Yes?
Yes.
Thereby making a name for yourself, correct?
My motive is not to make a name for myself. My motive would be to do what's right in this case, which is prove that Drufo is harmful and causes cancer.
That is all. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Were protective covers usually provided to workers?
No, they are not.
And was there sufficient time to study the long-term efficacy of protective equipment?
No, there was not.
And is there a higher chance of non-Hodgkin lymphoma due to Drufo exposure?
Yes, there is.
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon, I saw you turned off your camera. Do you have any recross?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. The witness will be excused. I'll take a minute for scoring.
I'm calling Blake. Sorry.
Hold on. Does the plaintiff have any further witnesses? Need to unmute. I asked the plaintiff had any further witnesses? You might have said yes, or no, but I didn't hear you. I'm going to assume not, and we'll go to the defense. The defense first witness.
Sorry. I would like to call Blake Downcourt as a witness.
Okay, and Andrea, we had some trouble hearing you before. If you can either move in closer to your computer or speak up, that will be helpful.
I would like to call Blake Doncourt as a witness.
Okay. Ms. Doncourt, you're previously sworn. You may proceed.
Can you please state your name to the court and spell the last?
Yes, my name is Blake Doncourt, Doncourt.
Why are you here today?
I am here today on behalf of my company who is being falsely accused.
Can you tell us a little about Lush?
Lush is a fertilizer company who produces yard and commercial fertilizers.
What can you tell us about who uses your product?
Businesses, trusted governments, and the individual all across internationally.
What does Lush do with its profits?
We like to give 10% of our profits to charity, and it goes to...
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
How is this relevant?
I'm simply building as to what type of company Lush is, like, just kind of building its character.
Anything else?
May I answer?
Yes.
It is not relevant at all what charities Lush Fertilizer is giving money to, since we're examining their product with Drufo in it.
Okay, I'm going to overrule the objection. I think they have a right to develop brief background. I'm not going to let this go extensively. You can re-raise your objection if it gets too long, but at this point, I think some background's appropriate. So I'm going to allow this question.
Can I ask what type of goals Lush has?
Yes. Our goal is to better improve the planet and reducing the nitrates that are put into our lakes and helping the world.
Has your company done any research as to Drufo?
Yes, we have.
Can you tell us what type of research?
My company has done in-house studies.
Are you mad at Dakota for bringing the suit against Lush?
Of course, I'm not mad. I just feel like she's going through a lot right now, and I truly empathize with her.
What do you think? Sorry, that goes kind of weird in here. Can I have a minute to fix the echo? Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Are you moving around, or I apologize, I didn't hear the last thing you said.
Yes, Your Honor, we were fixing the echo.
Oh, okay. So the timer stopped. I saw you moving chairs. I figured that's what was going on. Again, I'm having some trouble hearing you. Andrea, I'm sorry, I have some trouble hearing you. So you may proceed when you're ready.
Sorry, I'd like to re-ask my question. Are you mad at Dakota for bringing the suit against Lush?
Of course, I'm not mad at Dakota. She is going through a lot right now, and I truly empathize with her. I feel like the greedy corporations and lawyers have been taking advantage of her.
how do you feel about Casey Rogers in this case?
I feel like her research isn't really finalized, and I feel like she's also one of those greedy people who just want to take advantage of poor Dakota.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Carson Durst is one of your former employees, right?
She said objection.
Oh, sorry.
How is this relevant?
Sorry, what were you objecting to? My audio was off again.
I
She
said
objected
relevant.
that, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Your Honor.
All right.
Sorry, what were you objecting to?
She wanted to know how your last question was relevant. That was her objection.
Well, Casey Rogers is a witness in this case.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Casey Rogers is a witness to this case.
Would you tell me what your last question was?
I believe I asked how she felt, how Blake Doncourt felt about Casey Rogers.
Anything else, Emilia?
Yes, I don't think the way that the CEO of Lush feels about an expert testifying has anything to do with the case at all.
The way the question's phrased, I'm going to sustain the objection. You might be able to get at this by asking the question in a different way, but the way it's structured, I agree it's not relevant.
Do you think Casey Rogers is one of these greedy people trying to profit off Dakota's illness?
I do.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Response?
I was just stating how the witness had previously said that she felt that there was people that trying to profit off Dakota's illness, and I simply asked if she thought that Casey Rogers was one of these people.
May I respond, Your
Anything
Honor?
else? May.
Yes. First of all, the witness statement is not in evidence, which is why this is not a real base for the questions. And also, I don't think that Miss Doncourt's personal feelings about an expert testifying is relevant in any way.
Well, I'm going to overrule the objection. It goes slightly to credibility, and for that reason, I'm going to allow the question. I think it was answered, so you may move on.
Carson Durst was a former employee?
Yes, he was.
Did Carson ever speak up to you or anyone else that you know of about Drufo while he was employed?
No, not at all.
Was it only after he was fired that he spoke up?
Yes, and I don't think it's very right.
As a closing question, I just like to ask what you think Lush's legacy is.
I believe our legacy is to
Ms. Doncourt, we could not hear that last answer at all.
my apologies, Your Honor. I believe
Repeat your
our
answer.
legacy is to help the environment and improve the world with our fertilizers.
That is all, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Cross,
Yes, there is, Your Honor.
you may proceed.
Mrs. Doncourt, could you please look in your materials at Exhibit 4 and tell me when you're there?
have it.
You are familiar with that exhibit, right?
I am.
In fact, it is a confidential email that was sent from Gary Langley, the Drufo product manager, to several people, including you and the team, one of them being Carson Durst, right?
It is.
Do you admit that in that email, the risk of Drufo being carcinogenic addressed by one of your coworkers to you was recognized?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to move Exhibit 4 into evidence.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 4 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Carson Durst was closely involved in working with Drufo, as the email was also addressed to him as part of the team, right?
Yes, but it says it's unread by him.
Where does it say that? Could you point that out to me, please?
Yes, at the categories on the top. And this is a printed out version from him.
Okay. But you recognize that this is an email addressed to him as well, right?
Yes, I do recognize that.
This email is also addressed to you, right?
It is.
Prior to this, you gave a witness statement. Is that true?
Yes.
Were you being truthful in that statement?
Yes.
In your witness statement, you mentioned that Carson had every opportunity to bring his concerns to your attention, right?
Yes.
Is it also true that you had trouble with your ex-wife at that time, as you mentioned in your witness statement?
I don't see how that's relevant, but yes.
Could that have possibly negatively impacted?
Hold on. You say something, Mr. Ella?
Oh, I said objection relevance. I don't see how talking about his ex-wife is relevant.
Response?
It goes to the credibility of Blake Doncourt, and it is also important because I'm laying a foundation for my next question as to if his availability might have been impacted by certain troubles with his ex-wife or in his social life in general.
Anything else, Mr. Ella?
No, that's all.
I think it's proper cross-examination. I'll overrule the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, is it also true that you had trouble with your ex-wife at that time, as you mentioned in your witness statement?
Yes.
Could that have possibly negatively impacted your availability for Carson Durst, as he mentioned that you were not willing to talk to him because of that when he tried to voice his concerns to you?
He did not try to voice his concerns about Drufo.
Do you think that might have been because of that impact availability?
I cannot say that I know what Carson was thinking.
Do you agree that you were less available for conversations with your coworkers because of certain troubles in your social life?
I keep my social life outside of my work.
Do you still agree that your availability to your coworkers might have been impacted by that?
Asked and answered. Sorry, objection asked and answered. Can you hear me?
Response? Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. Thank you. I did hear you that time. Thank you.
Sorry.
Any response?
Yes, the witness is not directly answering my question, so I was just trying to clarify.
I'm going to allow the question I may have been asked and answered. I don't remember the precise answer. I'll allow this question.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, do you agree that your availability to your coworkers might have been negatively impacted?
No.
You knew of the possible carcinogenic effects of Drufo research in your own in-house study, right?
I was never aware.
But you do agree that in that email, Exhibit 4 that we just looked at, that risk was recognized and that email was also addressed to you, right?
Yes, but it's inconclusive. We needed more research on it.
You knew and got advice by your experts that, as you stated in your witness statement, baking the fertilizer could have removed any risk that the fertilizer might be carcinogenic for humans as well, right?
Yes.
Could you please look in your exhibit in your materials at Exhibit 8, excuse me, and tell me when you're there.
I have it.
Exhibit 8 shows Lush's profit table provided by you, right?
Yes.
You still decided not to bake the fertilizer because this greatly increased your profit, as showed in that table that you created and provided, right?
Yes.
The baking costs would have been $250,000 a year, yearly increasing, right?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to move Exhibit 8 into evidence.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 8 will be admitted.
As you stated in your witness statement, you claim that if the accusation of Lush Fertilizer putting a dangerous product into the hands of the public for financial profit was true, there would be a paper trail, right?
Yes.
You know that such a paper trail, the email Exhibit 4, has been found after turning over your email system, right?
Yes.
Is it also true that you did not publish any other financial findings?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Is there any redirect?
Yes, there is. Why is it
You
that
may
you,
proceed.
why is it that you did not bake Drufo?
I think it's a bit of overkill.
Why did you think this was overkill?
It wasn't very clear that Drufo already was carcinogenic, and I didn't believe that we needed to add all that extra profit.
So you thought it was safe enough to go out there without baking?
Yes, it is within EPA regulations.
That is all, Your Honor.
Is there any recross based on that?
Yes, there is, Your Honor. Ms. Donkor, do you agree that you're not an expert?
In like science, or I'm an expert businessman.
Not an expert on Drufo, though, right?
No.
Do you agree that an expert's opinion on Drufo is more valid in some sort than your opinion on it?
I do believe so.
Is it true that you got advised by your experts to bake Drufo because they said that would be more safe and you just didn't believe that it would be, and that's why you didn't bake it?
It was a recommendation.
It was an advice by your experts, right?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Was this excused, and we'll pause for scoring. Okay, defense's second witness.
Your Honor, I would like to call Skylar Wirsch to the stand.
Okay, hold on 1 second. We get the cross-state attorney on board here.
Could you repeat that, Your Honor?
Just want to make sure no one lost the witness.
I'm sorry?
We've lost your witness. There we go. Okay. All right, I think we're all ready to go. You may proceed.
Oh, please state and spell out your name for the record.
My name is Skylar Wirsch, W-E-I-R-S.
What is your relationship with Dakota Wirsch?
Dakota is my twin sister.
What is your connection with Lush Fertilizers?
Before Dakota was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I authored an article questioning the link between Drufo and cancer.
Why are you testifying on behalf of Lush Fertilizers?
I believe that Dakota is going against the wrong company, as my own research has shown that there's no link between Drufo and cancer.
Do you know anyone that works at Lush?
Only by acquaintance.
Okay, Ms. Worth, well, what is your occupation?
I'm a freelance investigative journalist.
What kind of research do you do?
I'll research anything as a freelance journalist, but I've investigated individual health and corporate policy.
What research are you most informed about?
I am heavily informed about modern agritech.
Have you done any research on modern agritech?
Yes, I've researched agritech as my editor assigned me a series on agritech, and I also researched Drupal.
How long have you been researching this topic?
I've been researching this topic for around a year now.
How have you been researching this topic?
I tracked down as many publications by agritech companies as possible, and then I looked at all of their cited research in these publications. I also looked at as much research as possible from the United States Department of Agriculture and the National State Department of Agriculture.
Do you have any formal education?
While I have no formal college education, historical and statistic info requires no degree, and I am probably the most informed about modern agritech outside of the USDA and the NSDA.
What magazine do you write for?
I write for The Rationalist, published by the Rationalist Society.
What is the Rationalist Society?
The Rationalist Society is an amazing nonprofit that encourages scientific skepticism and resists pseudoscience and irrational beliefs.
Has lush fertilizers been targeted by these pseudoscientific theories?
Lush fertilizer has been the target of mass hysteria and pseudoscientific theories.
Your Honor, at this time, please regard Skylar Worse as an expert in modern agritech.
Is there any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Well, Skylar might have some knowledge on this topic. It's only been for a year. And as I previously mentioned, she does not have, or as she personally testified, she does not have a college degree or any scientific experience.
Response?
Your Honor, Skylar Worse has shown her extensive knowledge of modern agritech, and according to Rule of Evidence 702, an expert witness is not required to hold a specific degree or training certificate, and she is an investigative journalist.
Final word, Mr. Ruiz?
No, Your Honor.
If this was a mock trial, I probably wouldn't qualify this witness. I don't know that this witness be qualified, but under the rules of mock trial, I think that it is appropriate that she be qualified, and so I will qualify her in the field of modern agritech, and she may express opinions in those fields.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, can you tell me about the nature of pesticides?
Pesticides are by nature poison, whether they're killing bacteria, fungi, or even plants themselves. They're designed to get rid of anything that is harming the crop or the person growing the crop.
Does every pesticide contain a carcinogen?
Most pesticides contain a carcinogen, yes.
How about modern pesticides?
Modern pesticides do still contain a carcinogen, but they're a lot safer than they used to be.
How about grass seed products?
Grass seed products also typically contain a carcinogen.
Do you know if nitrogen has any link to cancer?
Nitrogen has been linked to cancer, baby blue syndrome, thyroid conditions, and even diabetes, and synthetic nitrogen is known to be very harmful to the environment.
Are there any chemical fertilizers that are truly 100% safe?
There are no chemical fertilizers that you could classify as 100% safe.
Is there a way to reduce the number of harmful chemicals in fertilizer?
You can reduce chemicals in fertilizer with modern technology and bonding agents such as Drupal.
How does Drupal work?
Drupal is a bonding agent, so it'll bond to not only the grass, but the active ingredients in lush fertilizers such as nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, and this prevents the active ingredients from being washed away as quickly.
How often does Drupal need to be applied compared to other fertilizers?
While other fertilizers are typically applied 5 to 6 times a year, Drupal only needs to be applied twice a year.
How does using Drupal lessen the risk of contact with these carcinogens and other fertilizers?
When you use Drupo, when you use products with Drupo, you need to apply a significantly less amount. So you won't be exposed to the carcinogens as much.
Is there a fertilizer that is not harmful?
There's no fertilizer that's not harmful.
How else is Drufo effective?
Products with Drupo also work as a pesticide, so you don't need to add any other pesticides that you typically would to fertilizers or grass seed products, therefore lessening the exposure of carcinogens to the consumer.
To your knowledge, has Lush Fertilizers done anything with their products to help reduce contact with carcinogens?
The addition of Drupo to their products has lessened the amount of carcinogens that consumers will be exposed to.
Has Lush Fertilizers helped Haven Landscaping in any way, in your knowledge?
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of personal knowledge.
Response?
Due to the nature of Dakota's work of Haven Landscaping, I was asking Skylar if she knew ways that Lush Fertilizer could have potentially helped them.
Anything else, Mr. Ruiz?
Yes, we have clearly established that Skylar Weirs did not work with Dakota, and therefore she will not know anything regarding the connection between her company and Lush Fertilizer.
Can you repeat the question for me?
Yes, I asked if Lush Fertilizers has helped Haven Landscaping in any way.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Okay. In your expert opinion, is there a clear link between Drufo and cancer?
Although the link between Drupo and cancer is inconclusive at best, there is a much clearer link between other pesticides and cancer.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cross-examination.
I am ready, Your Honor. Okay, I have some questions for you, Ms. Weirs. Let me just pull them up real quick. So you mentioned that you worked for a magazine, is that correct?
That is correct.
So can you repeat for us what is the name of the magazine where you publish your articles?
The magazine I work for is called The Rationalist.
And how long have you been writing for this magazine?
About a year.
And does this company provide enough, or does the publisher for your magazine provide enough income for it to be your only job?
No.
All right, so moving on. Do you have a PhD?
No, I do not.
Did you ever graduate college?
I chose to forego college for my writing career.
And have you worked as a scientist?
No.
Have you published any peer-edited scientific papers?
No, I have not.
So by all sense of the word, you are a journalist, not a scientist, correct?
I suppose so.
Would you then also agree that any normal citizen can do their own research on a given topic, such as you did?
They could.
And do you think that legitimate scientists who have PhDs and are licensed to perform their own experimental studies on Drufo know less about Drufo than you do?
No, I do not.
All right, so let's move on. Would you agree that just because a product has some benefits in a concern, does it still make it a safe product?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. Would you agree that just because something has some benefits in some respects, it does not make it a safe product?
I guess that would depend on the product, but no, I don't agree.
All right. So you talk a lot about the positive factors of Drufo, but do you know anything about its negative side effects?
Based on my research, I haven't found any negative side effects.
Okay. So could you please look in your materials for Exhibit 3? And just let me know when you're there, please.
I have Exhibit 3.
So are you familiar with Exhibit 3?
Yes.
And what does this exhibit show?
It shows the effects of Drupo on rats.
And is this a positive or negative effect?
Negative.
Didn't you say that you have no knowledge about any negative side effects concerning Drufo?
Based on the information I've garnered from the United States Department of Agriculture and the National States Department of Agriculture, I found no negative effects, no.
So isn't Exhibit 3 a negative effect?
Yes.
Okay. So could you read, in your job, you would agree that it is your responsibility and your duty to provide people with the facts and information regarding science, correct?
Yes.
So how important would you say it is for someone to provide adequate scientific information on something?
It's very important.
So you are familiar with your studies on the harmful effects of nitrogen into the environment, correct?
Yes.
Would you have informed people of these harmful effects?
Yes.
So I would like to redirect your attention back to Exhibit 3. Do you think that people should be informed about this?
Yes.
Okay. So could you look in your materials for Exhibit 1 for me real quick? And let me know when you're there, please.
I have Exhibit 1.
Are you familiar with Exhibit 1?
Yes.
So could you point to me where in this label does it mention that this product is carcinogenic?
It does not explicitly state that any of this product is carcinogenic, but it does contain well-known carcinogens.
It does? Can you point to me where the well-known carcinogens are on the label?
It does state that it contains things such as nitrogen, and nitrogen is known to contribute to many diseases.
Okay. So if a company purposely knew that they manufactured a product containing a chemical compound that could cause cancer, and they decided to not conduct the necessary procedures to make that product safe, and they didn't leave a warning on that product showing this, do you believe that that company is performing their duty to inform people on science?
Can you repeat the question for me?
Sure. So if a company purposely knew that they manufactured a product that contained a chemical compound that could cause cancer, and they decided to not conduct the necessary procedures to make the product safe, and they didn't leave a warning on the product showing this, do you believe that that company is performing their duty to inform people on science?
Well, I'm not sure what chemical compound you're referring to. They would not be informing the people, no.
Okay. So Ms. Weirs, I leave you with this. Are you willing to make the argument that Drufo is undeniably, without a doubt, safe?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Is there a redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Be no to redirect, the witness be excused, and we'll score.
I think we're all ready. I think Daniel already.
Oh, maybe. Thank you. Thanks, Judge. I missed that. So, okay. Next witness.
I would like to bring Dr. Devin Williams up to the stand.
Dr. Williams. Okay, I think we're all ready. You may proceed.
Do you have a college education, Dr. Williams?
Yes, I graduated from Colorado State University and I have degrees in pharmacology and toxicology specialization.
Do you have any other training relating to toxicology?
Yes, I have been a Larimer County office of the Chief Medical Examiner Toxicologist.
Interesting. What would you have done as a chief medical examiner?
I analyzed the results of chemical analyses to identify potential toxic insults.
What type of other training have you done?
I understand how to research and evaluate test results to determine the end effects of potentially toxic chemical agents used in biomolecular and biochemical markers.
What does that mean?
That means that I know how to tell if a substance is going to harm the average human.
How can you tell?
Through careful examination of data.
Do you have any experience with data analysis?
Yes, I theorize different outcomes from derived data sets.
Did you receive any other degrees while attending CSU?
Yes, I have a master's degree in forensic toxicology specialization.
Are you published?
Yes, I have written things like the forensic aspects of poisons and many others.
Are you currently employed?
Yes, I work at Lush Fertilizers.
What do you do there?
I have led the toxicology research department for 7 years.
Did you do any data analysis in Lush Fertilizers?
Yes, I was stated as a technician in testing timelines.
Technician? Like the thing that works with devices and stuff?
No, a technician is an expert in the practical application of the science.
What other types of research were you doing in Lush Fertilizer?
Recently, we have been doing a study to prove that Drufo products lead to reduced eutrophication, which is excessive richness of nutrients in real-world applications.
At this time, I would like the court to recognize Dr. Devin Williams as an expert in toxicology.
Is there any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Be no objection, Dr. Williams will be qualified as an expert in toxicology and allowed to express opinions in that field.
I would also like to enter Exhibit 9 as evidence.
Is there any objection?
Objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
The
I
Exhibit
will
9.
at this point.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
The Exhibit
respond.
9 is the professional background of Dr. Devin Williams, and I would like that as evidence.
I understand what it is, but I think the objection is well stated. At this point, there's been no foundation laid other than what you just stated for what it is.
Dr. Devin Williams.
You asked the witness. Pardon?
Dr. Devin Williams explained their background and their publications and what they did before they worked at Lush Fertilizer.
I understand, but you're identifying the exhibit. The witness has to identify the exhibit, not you.
Okay.
You just need to ask her what this is.
Dr. Devin Williams, do you have Exhibit 9 in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Can you explain to me what it is?
It is a list of my professional background.
Can you explain what's on it?
It lists anything from my education to things that I published.
Okay. Your Honor, I would like to enter Exhibit 9 as evidence.
Any objection now?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibit 9 will be amended.
Okay. Devin Williams, have you worked with Drufo before?
Yes, I have.
Is Drufo used internationally as a fertilizer?
No, because it has been banned in the European Union.
Why is it banned in the European Union?
It is due to its nitrate content.
Why didn't Lush fight the EU on this matter?
It's because at the time we were a young company and it would have been a lengthy and expensive legal litigation. And current studies show that Drufo-based products lead to reduced eutrophication. And yeah, so we didn't really think it was worth the fight for that one.
Did other countries ban Drufo?
Yes, but it's countries like Haiti and Liberia in which if the EU bans something, then they're likely to ban it too.
Does the United States allow Drufo?
Yes.
In your expertise, does Drufo cause cancer?
The use of Drufo has not been correlated with a statistically significant increase in the incidence of non-Hodgkin lymphoma or any other cancer.
Why not just say it doesn't cause cancer?
Because that's not necessarily how science works. There's always a risk with any chemical you come across, but it's just like anything else.
Have you compared Drufo with other fertilizers?
Yes.
Are you aware of Dr. Rogers' work?
Yes, and I do believe that their work is severely flawed.
How so?
It was because their work basically in the recent study, it basically compared apples to oranges by comparing farmers who would commonly use Drufo to gardeners who would use it sometimes and to casual gardeners who weren't likely to use it. And
Time's up.
basically,
Okay. We will go to Cross.
Okay, thank you. You have no publications on the effects of Drufo, correct?
correct.
And after the development of Drufo, about half the team moved on. Am I right?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
After the development of Drufo, about half the team moved on. Am I right?
Yes.
You were hired as a technician due to the large turnover, correct?
Yes.
And you stated that there's a lot riding on your customer success. Agreed?
Yeah.
Customer success, not safety, correct?
Yes.
And Drufo is already banned in the European Union, correct?
Yes.
And in your witness statement, the EU's concern with Drufo is new fertilizer formulations that may contribute more than incidental nitrate accumulation. Agreed?
Objection asked and answered.
Response?
I have not asked that question yet.
I did during my case.
You did in your case? Is that what you said, Chloe?
Yes.
Okay. I think she could explore it across as well. So I'll overrule the objection.
Okay. I will repeat the question. The EU's concern with Drufo is new fertilizer formulations that may contribute more than incidental nitrate accumulation, correct?
Yes.
Yet your product supposedly fixes the problem of nitrate pollution, correct?
Yes.
But they still ban Drufo, am I right?
Yes, but only due to its nitrate content.
Your product supposedly contains less nitrates, correct?
Yes.
Yet you state that if you pour some into a petri dish and add the right bacteria, you will get just as many nitrates as regular fertilizer, correct?
I am not sure about that.
So the nitrate makeup is identical to other products, agreed?
Agreed.
In your study, you conclude that there are low chances of sickness due to Drufo, correct?
but there's still a risk. Agreed?
Agreed, because it's just like any other chemical.
Thank you, but a yes or no will suffice.
Okay.
In your witness statement, you admit to being financially biased in this case, correct?
Yes.
And you were the outgoing chair of the ethics committee, correct?
Correct.
Meaning you were leaving the position, am I right?
Yes.
As you stated, Drufo product goals are to be industry leading, environmentally aware, and cost effective, correct?
Correct.
Customer safety was not listed in these goals, agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you, no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Since we're out of time for redirect, that'll be the conclusion of this witness, and we will score. Is the plaintiff prepared to present closing?
Okay. Yes, Your Honor, I am ready.
You may proceed when you're ready.
Okay. So before I begin, Your Honor, I would like to reserve 2 minutes for my rebuttal closing.
You may reserve whatever time you want for closing. That'll be noted.
So may it please the court, Your Honor, members of the jury. This trial stands today as an important stepping stone for justice. The question that remains is whether or not that vote goes towards corporate greed and ignorance of consumer protection, or for my client who has lost access towards a universal right, and that is the pursuit of happiness. And that is all at the hands of Lush Fertilizer. As the plaintiffs in this case, we had the burden of proving these four simple points by a preponderance of the evidence. The first one being that the defendant, in this case Lush Fertilizer, manufactured a fertilizer product containing a chemical compound known as Drufo. The second was that the defendant was negligent by failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent the product from creating an unreasonable risk of harm to persons who might reasonably be expected to use the product in a manner the defendant might have reasonably expected. The third one being that Dakota Weirs was one of those persons the defendant should reasonably have expected to use the product. And the fourth being that Dakota had damages that were caused by the defendant's negligence, while the product was being used in a manner the defendant should reasonably have expected. After hearing testimony today from several accounts, including Dakota Weirs, our medical professional Dr. Casey Rogers, and Carson Durst, I see insurmountable evidence that all of these points were proven today in court. So Dakota Weirs took stand today, despite her painful and horrific disease of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and gave eye-opening testimony as to her condition and the fight she continues to have with it. Dakota was making her way through life as not just a person sitting on the sidelines, but as a community leader, an artistic prodigy, and as a loving granddaughter who cherished nothing more than to use music as a way to connect with her grandfather. Not only has she lost that connection, but she has no idea what the future holds for her. Every morning she wakes up not knowing if she will be able to breathe or not, or if her pains will be worse than before. And she also lives with the uncertainty of using her scholarship to Juilliard, which she worked so hard towards achieving. As for Dr. Casey Rogers, she stood stand and used her legitimate scientific background and knowledge to prove to you that Dakota Weirs did in fact get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and all due to the primary chemical Drufo, which Lush failed to properly study, inform, and administered said chemical, with my client being at the receiving end of these improper studies. She conducted extensive research using well-conducted studies and gave empirical evidence that my client's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma did indeed come from her contact with Lush's product. This only gets worse when you take a look at Mr. Durst's testimony today at trial, where he demonstrated to us all of the different ways in which Lush Fertilizer attempted to downsize the seriousness of Drufo's carcinogenic effects, and how, according to Carson, they purposely misled the public and kept information out of their studies. This concern of Drufo was clearly concerning enough for Lush Fertilizer to release a report as to how by baking Drufo, it could reduce its carcinogenic effect. But did they do that? Of course not. They decided to take profits instead of protecting my client and every other consumer of their product. This is a true act of corporate greed, and one that must not go unpunished. Dakota Weirs was clearly a reasonable user of the product. She never knew that the product could cause cancer, as it was not on the label, and if it had been there, she might have taken different precautions. So I leave you with this. No amount of money will ever be enough to compensate for the extreme mental and physical pains Lush Fertilizer has caused my client. But a $5 million compensation and finding Lush Fertilizer liable is the only thing that can provide Dakota with any sense of relief. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Defense, closing argument,
May I proceed, Your Honor?
you may.
Good afternoon, members of the jury, opposing counsel, Your Honor. Today, you heard the story of Dakota Wares attempting to pinpoint Lush Fertilizers and the bonding agent Drufo as the root cause of her illness and the arguments as to why it is not. You heard many observations and recollections. Let's recall what we heard today. Dakota Wares, after a life of hard work, has been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. After desperately seeking an answer to what caused this tragedy, she settled on Lush Fertilizers, a fertilizer she has not had adequate contact with within the years she worked at Haven Landscaping. Lush Fertilizers is not the company to blame. Drufo is designed to help not only its consumers, but the environment around them as well. Dakota Wares is simply coming at the wrong company. Blake Doncourt, CEO of Lush Fertilizers, is both altruistic, environmentalist, and empathetic. Lush's fertilizer success has allowed him to direct 10% of annual profits to charities, and in turn, these companies are working hard to decrease the world's global nitrogen footprint. Blaming a CEO such as Blake is absurd. He is a man that cares deeply about the planet and the people on it. If Blake saw any verifiable risk that Drufo could put its consumers in danger, he would have never allowed the company to put it on the market. The plaintiff argues Dr. Casey Rogers has provided adequate information pertaining to a correlation between Drufo and cancer, but his research proves to be inadequate and heavily flawed. Devin Williams, on the other hand, is a credible toxicologist. Using this extensive knowledge, he pointed out the flaws in the methods such as the one used by Rogers to research the supposed correlation of Drufo and cancer. Casey Rogers created a study of groups of people and concluded those who were more exposed to Drufo were more likely to be at risk for cancer. This study is not completely valid because the lifestyles and environments of the people studied called for different levels of exposure. His study has not been peer-reviewed, and more importantly, it has not been replicated. He is looking for a correlation that does not exist and is solely a researcher who is only looking to make a name for himself. Devin Williams, on the other hand, in his expertise, concluded Drufo to be a revolutionary product that is far better for the planet and for people in general. Skylar Worse, an investigative reporter, has thoroughly researched agritech utilizing publications from both the NSDA and USDA. She found that Lush Fertilizers has effectively utilized the bonding agent Drufo to lessen the environmental impact of normal fertilizers. Drufo, if anything, has protected its consumers from needing to use a large amount of other harmful chemicals during work. She has extensively researched Drufo for almost a year and has found no conclusive evidence concerning the link between Drufo and cancer. The plaintiff argues it took Blake a year to fire Carson, proving his worth at Lush Fertilizers, but this is not the case. Carson's claims about Drufo only came up once he was fired. On his job, he had every opportunity to bring up his concerns about Drufo. In fact, he was supposed to, but he did not. Carson is always looking for a way to work the system in his favor. He uses familiar connections rather than hard work. Dakota Wears, a victim of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, whom we empathize with dearly in her desperation to find answers, has turned to the wrong people. Due to her area of employment, she had been exposed to numerous harmful chemicals frequently, not just Drufo and Lush Fertilizers. It is unreasonable to blame Drufo, a chemical that is not fully proven to be carcinogenic, when Dakota is constantly surrounded by fertilizer products of the same or even worse nature. What should be taken into consideration is Haven Landscaping's negligence to enforce the correct safety procedures when handling harmful chemicals. At this point, it becomes clear that there is really no conclusive evidence linking Drufo to cancer. The plaintiff has not met their burden, and therefore you, the jury, should find that Lush Fertilizers did not create use of the product that may be harmful or injurious to a user. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. And can I ask how much time is remaining for rebuttal?
1 minute and 45 seconds.
Okay. Mr. Rose, you have 1 minute and 35 seconds. You may start when you're ready.
All right. Your Honor and members of the jury, I ask that you look beyond the senseless points made by opposing counsel and instead look at our case and the very clear testimonies made by our witnesses. While I respect opposing counsel for representing their clients, I would like to point out that they do not properly do this. In their opening statement, they refer to Devin Williams as knowledgeable in math, when of course the subject at hand is referring to science and not math. This of course is a small concern, but one that shows that they do not know as much about this case as we do. Furthermore, we have had very clear testimonies in regards to Dr. Casey Rogers and her knowledge on the clear connection between Drufo and cancer. While opposing counsel tried to point out that our client worked with numerous products that were carcinogenic, I asked to consider these 2 points. The first one being that other products probably would have had a label to signify these carcinogens, and Lush does not. Additionally, it would be pure speculation to assume that other products could have caused cancer when we have given clear evidence that Drufo has a connection with my client's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and that she interacted substantially with this specific product. Devin Williams also testified by saying that our expert witness, Carson Durst, did not conduct a reliable study. This, of course, is easy to say when you're gaining so much in a trial like this. But even more concerning is that all of these claims are driven off of pure speculation. If Devin questioned the legitimacy of these studies, they should have replicated them, but they didn't. Devin didn't even know about her own study involving nitrates during cross-exam. Regardless of what opposing counsel may speculate on the different factors that might have influenced my client's cancer, there are a few points in this case that are indisputable. Dakota Weirs has cancer. She cannot be cured from this cancer. And Lush Fertilizer knew that their product could potentially cause cancer. And most concerning of all, Lush did not take proper measures to protect my client, and she suffers because of it. Dakota Weirs is not the only one, and many more like Dakota will continue to arise if we continue to allow carcinogenic substances to be allowed in products without the sufficient labeling. That is why Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. That will conclude this trial, and job well done. I've been asked by the tournament directors to have all the attorneys and witnesses turn on your cameras so that for scoring best witness and best attorney, we know we can put a face to the person. So if we can have all attorneys and witnesses so we can see you. Thank you. And we'll take a few minutes to score. Once I know all the scores are complete, then we'll give some brief comments. The scoring panelists, once you have submitted your actual ballot, you've actually submitted it, please unmute yourself. That way I'll know you're finished, and then we'll start comments when everybody's unmuted. Okay. before we get started, I just want to tell you all, you know, if in the courtroom, we all applaud, but it's kind of hard in Zoom to applaud, but generally speaking, a job well done. I'd like to just take a second and say thank you to the timers. We all see all you guys perform, but behind the scenes are the timers who really make sure all this stuff runs well. And I want to thank them for their work. Teresa, I'll let you start with comments.
I was a trial paralegal, so I sat in the courtroom quite often. The plaintiff's part, they were more confident, I think more prepared. And I would have liked to see the defendants be a little bit more confident and more knowledgeable of some of the facts. But everybody did so well. And I know it's hard to do stuff over Zoom. But, you know, knowing your character and, you know, playing that character to the fullest helps. And, you know, even though you're on Zoom, you still can use some emotions and, you know, just in your hand, you know, just to get stuff across. So that was mainly mine.
Okay, thanks. Daniel.
Okay, I'll start with some good, and I'll try to keep that specific, and the improvement stuff, I'll try to be general. Good, I like the passion from the plaintiff side. I think as a prosecutor, that's what I do as well. You know, this is my victim. I want you to hold this person accountable. You rile up the jury to a degree. So I think that was good. And I think on the defense, it was good as well. You came in, you calmed things down. That's what good defense attorneys do. Whoa, you know, there's a burden of proof. Here's the law. Here's the issue in the case. So I liked that. I also liked specifically, really, I think Chloe had an instance where she tried to admit an exhibit and didn't lay foundation. And I think there were a couple of times throughout the trial where objection was sustained or even overruled, and the attorney just moved on instead of rephrasing or trying to deal with the issue. And, you know, I think the questions were kind of simple to get the foundation in, but you were able to do it. And that in of itself, I think, should be applauded that you ever do that under pressure. A couple things just generally I saw that I think you guys can improve upon. There were a lot of relevance objections. Relevance is like the lowest bar to the admissibility of evidence. You know, it's just, does it make a material fact more or less probable? I think specific on the direct of the CEO, questions about like, is this person, other witness, greedy? Is that relevant? Yes, I think that was right to be allowed in under relevance, but that's not, that's an argumentative question. It's an improper lay witness opinion. It goes to a witness testifying to the credibility of another witness, which is not allowed. So there are a number of objections I think that could have been made that weren't. So if you just restrict yourself to relevance, I think you're going to let the other side get in a lot of evidence you don't want to, because if they're asking the question, it's probably relevant. And if you don't like it, there's probably a different reason why you don't like it than just relevance. Second thing, with your directs, the issue with kind of mock trial is that your close is like 5 minutes long. You really, on a case like this, should have a close that's about an hour long because you have all these expert witnesses. And the idea is for directs, you're trying to draw out facts so you can then bring those facts and use them in close. And so I think the difficult thing in mock trial is you start asking very argumentative questions and trying to get argumentative answers because you want these conclusory opinions, these conclusory statements that really you should be making as the attorney in closing argument. Your direct should really be to draw out the facts so that you can use them persuasively in close. And then I would just, on the plaintiff rebuttal, I would stay away from saying, you know, this stuff is senseless or we know the facts better than the other party. Juries just don't like personal attacks to the other side. I've had multiple discussions with juries where they're like, we didn't like that defense attorney, because I think defense attorneys really like doing that. If, you know, the government did do this, they can't do this. This prosecutor did this wrong. And they really just like it to stay to the facts. I understand you're passionate about your side, passionate about your client, but just make sure to keep it within the lines of kind of the case itself and not the attorneys. But overall, I thought it was a great job, both sides. Like I said, I love doing this because I learned something from you guys as a practicing trial attorney. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this, and good luck going forward.
Thanks, Daniel. Judge.
I think you all did a great job. I'm always really impressed with, I know how much work you put into this, and I know that none of you have gone to law school, and it just blows me away. And I think any of you who had fun doing this, if you can put your nerves and all that aside, and let me tell you, you never put that aside. As a practicing, I was a defense attorney and then a judge for a long, long time, and you're always nervous because you got to be on top of your game. And so if you were, that's a good thing, but don't let it deter you. If any of you had fun, do it. I just think, it's a little different for me to give you a little feedback on this mock trial as opposed to what it's going to be like to be in a courtroom after you go to law school, because I think you all should, seriously. But just, as far as taking you on to the next round, which I hope you all get to go to, just polish, I don't know, even polish it up doesn't sound right. You said good things. Just try to feel a little more of what you're saying and try to get yourselves into it, because you all are really good. You can deliver the message. It's just hard to get away from the script. And I still do it. I've been doing this for so many years and I still rely on my script too much. But I just say, great job. Good luck.
Thanks so much, Judge. I'll just add a few things. Again, I've been involved in mock trial for years. I will reveal that I have been a coach of the state championship team on many occasions. So I've really seen a lot of high quality mock trial. You guys did a really good job here. For the person who played the owner, God, I just forgot his name, Bancourt. I wrote that affidavit, so I really appreciated the presentation of that and the cross, because the things that were written into that, I think for the most part, whoever, I have some of my notes in cross, but they did a good job of doing that. I'd like just to hit some general things, because I think these things help, and hopefully, I know you got one more round in front of you today. I hope these will help you somewhat in that round. First of all, speed. I talk too fast. I've been practicing law for 46 years. I still talk too fast. I would really encourage you to stop, slow down, breathe. Openings and closings were the worst. Some of the testimony was there, but mostly openings and closings. And what you want to do in that is, you got a lot of material to cover. I think Daniel mentioned that, particularly in closing. You can do an hour closing in this, there's no question. So you got 5 minutes. It's a tough thing to do. Pick your big points, hit those points, slow down and emphasize those. Make sure, particularly in openings, that you cover the burden of proof and the elements. I heard burden, but I never heard preponderance of the evidence. Now, maybe I missed it, but what does preponderance of the evidence mean? And remember, this is different if you guys have done mock trial before than criminal. Criminal is beyond a reasonable doubt. Preponderance of the evidence is just kind of a slight tilting. So you don't have to, the proof on a plaintiff side is really, you got to prove more information the other side did. I like the idea of the damages. I'm glad we have that in this problem. We haven't done that historically. You get a good chance to do that. I thought that was well done. You talked about the $5 million, I think in the beginning, but I didn't hear it come back. And Adrian, that's maybe something you would have done in closing. This is why it's worth $5 million. Look at what this person's happened to them. Be passionate about this stuff. That's what you lose when you do speed, because you got so much content. Generally in speaking, in questions, what I would encourage you to do, I agree on what Daniel said on objections. Relevance usually is not going to get you very far. Sometimes you talked about lack of knowledge. The objection is speculation. That calls for speculation. In most cases, it didn't, because they can say they knew it or didn't know it. But that calls for speculation. There's no way they can know that. So you might want to think about changing the nature of that particular objection. There's lots of hearsay in this problem. I didn't hear one hearsay objection. You get the plaintiff coming out at the beginning, out of the gate, saying, well, I learned this, I learned that. Well, where'd they learn that? It's all from hearsay. Under Rule 701, they're a lay witness. They can't rely on hearsay. So there's a really good objection in there in the way that is structured. Be careful what you're saying. Somebody, I think it was Bella and Casey Rogers. I think you admitted that it was genetic based. death row could be genetically. I'm sorry. The lymphoma was genetic. I think you made a mistake. Just be careful in your answers. What you're saying. You got to write it direct, but I crossed. I think you got caught up. One of the things you may want to do, and Adrian, I think this was you. You did. You crossed Skylar Weirs, did you not? Yeah. So what you might want to do, answer really good questions and cross. Do a voir dire before you object. You know, in mock trial, you're going to get it anyway, but by doing the voir dire and raising those weaknesses in the expert witness, you tell the jury, this person doesn't have any idea what they're talking about. It's damn journalists. They don't have to know it. You know, you don't have any training or anything. So you do a better job of presenting in voir dire, make your objection, and you're still using the time, just using it in a different place. You did make a mistake. You asked an open-ended question about Exhibit 3. You said something to the effect, what is Exhibit 3 and what does it tell you? If you had done that to one of my students, they would have gone on for 5 minutes and explained you exactly what it was. You never want a cross-examination and ask an open-ended question. It allows them to run the clock. Controlling the witness, and I'm just going to mention this to be kind of my last comment. Some of you said yes or no will suffice, or please answer yes or no. So when they give you, they go off and they rattle off for 3 or 4 minutes, come back to them and say, was that a yes? Or that was a yes. You can even make it that way. And the next time they start to run and say, excuse me, would you please answer that as I ask it yes or no? And make your next question. Yes or no, is it black? You know, that's the way you control the witness. You control the witness as the attorney. If that doesn't work, you always go to the presiding judge. But in this case, you do it as an attorney first. I think those are my main things, and I threw a couple ringers in, not too much, and but good job, Stacy. I see you popping in.
I am. Great job, everyone.